Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Money Education Show. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a good morning so far. Can you let me know if you can hear me, please, in the comments? Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? Ines, thank you for being here. We're so happy to have you. Welcome to the Good Money Education Show. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we're going to get started and talk a bit about some of the headlines, and we're going to go forward from there. So let's get started. So one of the headlines that we have today is that 91 billionaire jet banned in Nigeria. So according to this headline, there are more than 91 individuals who are billionaires, and apparently they are not paying the import tariff taxes, and so the federal government is choosing to ban their jet, and they cannot fly out unless they pay um, the money, the fine that they are owing, which is about 30 billion naira. And so hopefully these individuals do what is right by the government, and then they are able to get back to using their jet as well as we go forward. Awesome. And the second headline that we have is that the Twitter ban is still in effect in Nigeria up to now. Good morning, Adebimpe. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Good morning, Emma. Welcome to the show. Good morning, Eunice. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you. So our next headline is that Twitter is still banned in Nigeria. Apparently, the one of the major reasons why this is still a I'm back. Okay, welcome everyone. Sorry um for that break in transmission. So on to our second headline. It says that Twitter is still currently banned in Nigeria because, according to the federal government, they're still negotiating with the Twitter company. And Twitter was supposed to have its headquarters in Nigeria, but decided to move it to Ghana. And so the government had some specific condition that Twitter had to fulfill before they can allow them to resume operation and allow Nigerians to use it. So one of the requirement is that they have to pay taxes to the federal government. And so hopefully that can be resolved soon. But of course, Nigerians and youth nowadays, they have a lot of different ways to get around that. But hopefully, officially, it will be back soon, hopefully before the end of this year, if not early January. So according to the report, there is just a little issue with the timeline. So the government of Nigeria is giving Twitter a specific timeline, and Twitter is saying that this does not work with them. So hopefully that will get resolved soon. So those are the main two headlines that we have for today for getting started. And today we have a very interesting topic, and I would love some participation from our audience as well. So let's get started. And hopefully, more analysts will join us and we can continue to go forward from there. Please let me know in the comments if you can still hear me. I just want to make sure that you can hear me. It seems as if I'm frozen, which should not be the case. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Can you still hear me? Oh, loud and clear. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. So today's topic is on your future self. And this is a very interesting topic. See, today is the last Monday in November, and soon we're going to enter into December, which is the last day of December. I don't want you to wait till December 30th, December 31st to start making New Year resolution about your future self and what you want to be and who you want to be. And so, because of that, we want you to start thinking, who is your future self? What is your future self going to be? I want you to do an exercise with me, and then we're going to go into some questions, and hopefully we'll have some of our analysts join us. But the first question is, think about a year from now. Imagine you're now in November 29, 2022. What will have changed about your life? And I want you to put it in the comments if you feel comfortable. What three things will you have progressed upon? What three goals, what three dreams will you have backed if it was November 29, 2022? So I would love some of our tribe members to give us some of their answers in the comments. So what three things or goals will have happened in your life by this time next year, November 29, 2022? Where will you be? Where will you be? Can you picture yourself being there? So if you don't mind, please put it in the chat, and I will read some of these out loud as we go forward. So tell me, a year from now, where will you be? What will have changed about your life? What will be different about where you are, about your environment, about your dreams, about your goals? How many of these will you have accomplished a year from now? So I would love to hear that as you walk on. Okay, and then as we wait for your comment to come along, I'll just talk a little bit briefly about your future self. So your future self is basically a vision, a vivid vision of where you want to be, a vivid vision of where you see yourself in terms of your hope, your dreams, and your aspiration. Where do you want to be? What kind of three priorities do you have that you want to execute upon by the time this time next year rolls around? What will be different about your life? What will be different about what you want in that regard? And so I know one of the questions that we have for our analysts today will be, and Mr. Rotimi, if you're here and you can say something, say I, so we know that you're here as well. One of the questions I have for analysts is, as we think about the education system in Nigeria, across Africa, where do we see, what do we envision a year from now? What are the things we would like to have seen happen? What are the things that we want to see? What are the things we want to stop? What are the things that we want to see actualized in our education system? And so if I were to give my own dreams, one would be no strike. No strike, that education will not be disrupted because of strike. So that will be one that I would love to see, that there will be no disruption due to strike. The second thing I would like to see is more opportunity for students across all the various academic levels, from kindergarten to tertiary level. I want to see more opportunity. You know, Nigeria has more than 10.5 million out of school children, and I'm sure that number is even undercounted. So that would be another thing I would love to see a year from now, to reduce that number by 5 to 10%. That would be the dream. That would be the goal, that by this time next year, by November 29, 2022, at least we will have reduced the 10.5 million children that are out of school by 5%. We'll have gotten at least 5% to 10% of those into the education system. The third one that I would love to see is the adoption of education, adoption of technology in education. More than ever, the world is leaving us behind because we are not fully utilizing the use of technology to enhance education, to make things better. And so for me, that would be my third thing that I would like to see, is for educators, alike school administrators, policymakers, to really, really use the power of technology to advance education and to make it more accessible to all, that irrespective of pandemic, irrespective of whatever else is going on in the world, education wouldn't stop due to the use of technology. And so those would be my top three things that I would love to see and hope to have this actualized in the education system by this time next year. If you have your own hope for your own country education system, your state education system, feel free to also share that in the comments as well. Mr. Rotimi, if you're there and you like to add to this conversation, I would love to hear your own input as well.
Good morning, Omotola. Good morning, everyone.
Money.
Thank you for the introduction and holding forth. Yeah, I think the topic is quite timely because it's something that we all must not just have concerns about, but we must have a script for. Your future self is not just something you think about. It's something that actually should have been laid out for you to live out. Your future self is a script that contains all that you can be, but you have not yet become, all that you can have, but you have not yet possessed. So if you understand that clearly, it's not just talking about open-ended, limitless possibilities. That's where a lot of people miss it. There are some possibilities that are not for us. There are some possibilities that shouldn't even be for us. And with that understanding, what we need to do is to look at ourselves and say, going further and going forward, what are the possibilities around us, but that are for us? And then when we look at those possibilities, we ask ourselves, what have we been able to make happen for ourselves out of such possibilities? The remaining yet to happen becomes part of the script for your future self. So your future self must really be a particular point where it is expressed articulation of the possibilities that you seek. It is not your potential, because your potential might not see the light of day. So it's something that you must script. And that's why you find a lot of people, when they talk about their future self, they're not necessarily talking about a time zone, which simply means that we can live a future of ourselves, or our future self can emerge today. There are certain things we've not done, but by the fact that you have a support system, by the time you look at yourself, you probably have given up. Somebody just says, no, let's do it. And that already is birthing the future. Because if you didn't do it, it's probably something you would have found yourself not ending up doing. So your future self, those who are listening today, is the script of the possibilities accrued to you, not the script of possibilities by potential, by thinking, or by observation across the world. So there's a little bit of self-application, contextualization, and intelligence that goes into your future self. So if there's anything that you can become, but you have not yet become, then that's your future talking to you. If there's anything that you not yet possess, then that's your future knocking at the door. And in some cases, it's not just for you to figure out, it's for you to script out and live out. And that's what I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very enlightening. I love what you said about it's not just about your potential, but it requires for you to first appraise yourself where you have versus where you want to be. And then I love what you said about scripting it out and ensuring that you have a script that you're following in terms of okay, this is where I want to be. So to follow up, if we're thinking of the education system, how where do you see these in application? How can educators, how can school administrators use think about the future self in terms of the education system and actually script something that they desire in terms of what they would like to see in the nearest future? Did
For
you
the
hear that?
education system, yeah, thank
Yes.
thank you. For the education system, the future of the education sector and system is tied to its limitations. It's tied to its limitation. I think that's the very first thing that we must look at. What are the limitations of the education sector and system? Its limitation speaks about its possibilities and the possibilities that can accrue to it. So that's the very first thing. And one of the things that I've been saying for the past like 2 weeks, and I think I'll aggressively start saying it, not just on the show, but to everyone, is that if we're going to really address the future of education, then we need to start talking about a no-limit education. So the system of education should be a no-limit system. So next year, we should articulate and champion some measure of advocacy that what we are doing, whatever we are doing, we should take an agenda or we should take a theme from having a no-limit education. A no-limit education system will also begin to cause us to look at ourselves to say, we have a no-limit educator, a no-limit classroom, a no-limit school, a no-limit commissioner, a no-limit ministry. And that's when we begin to explore our own kind of possibilities. But you see, there are things we don't do because we feel we are limited. Consciously or unconsciously, sometimes written or unwritten, we just feel that there's a limitation. Why is it that we only do conferences for ourselves? Why is it that we don't do conferences to host the world? Why is it that we don't invite the world for our awards and seminars? It's because we've all together limited ourselves. Do you get? So I think that's where we need to start.
Thank you, Mr. Rotimi. And we'd like to welcome our wonderful analyst, Mr. Olushola, to the show. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning, Dr. Motola. Good morning, Rotimi.
Welcome to the
good
show.
to be here. Thank you to be here once again on a Monday morning. Thank you.
Yes. And we're talking about the idea of your future self. And so I would like for you, Mr. Olushola, to speak to it. When you think of your future self, what do you envision? Then also in terms of the education system, the education sector, what do you believe as educators, as people within the education system, what should we envision for the education?
Thank you. I want to use this to encourage everybody out there that it is good to take baby steps. And when you know the works, keep taking baby steps, aligning with other people, collaborating, keep learning, keep developing, and you will fashion out how, when you achieve where you are going, may not be a predetermined time. Oh, by in the next 2 years, I will have blown this, I will have blown that big. No. But as we take baby step, each day, each moment, each time, each session, we'll get to where we are heading to. Of course, as human beings, we evolve. So for me, I see it as taking steps every time will eventually land me in what I aspire to become or who I aspire to become. It's a process, it's a journey. And your future self may not look like it now, but keep working at it. Take, for example, when a baby is born, the limbs are there, but those limbs can hardly do anything. But as time passes and as the baby exercises those limbs, suddenly he begins to sit down, he can hold the feeding bottle, he can begin to trot. At the time he can walk. Of course, there will be many falling down, rising up again, a little bruise here, a little bruise there, and but those are the, how do I put it now? The ingredients to get to where we are going. So for me, I see the need to keep moving. Like somebody said, if you cannot fly, make sure you are running. If you cannot run, make sure you are walking. If you cannot walk, make sure you are trotting. If you cannot trot, make sure you are walking.
Mr. Olushola,
Even if you cannot walk, then you have to buy. Yes, and then means keep moving. So for me, my future self is becoming better, achieving my goals, and aims and objective, and be the best version of myself, and of course, bringing solution to bear in my community, in the world at large. I will encourage educators out there. You may not look like it now, but please don't give up on yourself. Don't rest on your oars. Keep working. Most of the big guns we celebrate today started somewhere. I remember one of the mentees from across Africa was asking me, "What did you do to get to where you are?" I have not even replied the question.
Mr. Shila, are you still there?
Please keep
Hello?
doing what you are doing and keep giving your best. I believe you surely get to the future you desire. If you didn't give up, if you didn't back down, if you didn't loaf or become lazy, keep working and you keep evolving, and by you get to where you are going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lishala. That was very apt and definitely a lot of wisdom for all us all to definitely consider and apply. And while you were speaking, we had another analyst coming. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Would like to hear your voice. There's been a
Hi,
big
good morning. This is
hi,
KK
welcome.
here.
Great to
Thank you.
have you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. So we're talking about your future self, and not and so I would love for you to also contribute to this, KK, and talk about when you see your what are the things that you see in your future self. Let's say a year from now, 2 years from now. What are you like three things or things that you like to have accomplished? Imagine it's in November 29, 2022, or November 29, 2024. Where do you see yourself? And then in terms of the education system, what are the things that we should aspire for? What are the future self that the education system, an educator should strive for in the coming months, in the coming years as well?
Mm. These are really important points to discuss in reality. Really, really important. So in terms of me, my future self. So let me look at 2022. When I woke up this morning, or was it last night? I said to myself, I said, three things that I want to make sure I do more of in 2022 are: one, more of public sector partnerships. So, me doing a lot of work in the public sector, working with educators, teachers, school head teachers, school managers in the education sector, just to guarantee um, uh, quality. Yes, education quality. No matter how great a private school is, I don't think we have the capacity to have as many children, to cater for as many children as the public schools do. So it only stands to reason for me that the more public sector partnerships that I have, working more in the public sector can only be good. So that's one thing that I'm definitely looking at doing next year. Another thing that I'm looking at doing is um, building more school leaders in the private sector. I see that for a lot of school leaders in the private sector, we're not focusing on business. We think a lot about what we want to do, how our children are learning, or our schools, are they growing? But then we're not looking at the technicalities that are actually involved in school growth, that are involved with learning, with teacher development, with even stakeholder engagement. And I would like to bring my experience there into, again, the private space and say, look, as a private school, yeah, it's great to focus on growth, but growth in what ramifications? Why are we focusing on growth? What is growth? What does it mean to you? How do you define success in your school setting? And also really localizing the solutions that we provide, right? Both in the public and the private space. That's something I definitely want to do. Another thing that I would like to do in terms of my future, and I truly believe that you cannot build, it's raining here, so I hope that you can still hear me. Uh, it's raining quite heavily over here, so I hope I'm still very audible. We cannot build today, what we haven't envisaged. So what we imagine, we create. And we cannot live tomorrow in the today we have not built. So if we truly want to say to ourselves, this is my future self, we need to already be doing those things today. And that is why I can extend some of these things that I'm already doing today and saying, this is what I want to see me doing more of tomorrow, next year, 2 years from now, because I've already started to build that today, right? And that's important for me. One final thing that I would love to do, I mean, there are tons of other things, but these three are critical for me in 2022 to 2023, is actually take education into the business space. A lot of times, people hold conferences where they are talking about education, and there is no educator on the table. I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. If you're talking about my sector, I should be at the table, right? So that's what I want to begin to do a lot of. And again, that's something I've already started to do, helping them understand that, look, yes, we're teachers, but we are more than that. Some of us have been in business school. Some of us are doing so much more than even just education, right? We understand the importance of education as nation building, which is why this is our primary focus. Not because we couldn't do anything better, but because this is the best that we can actually do with the intellectual capacity that we carry on the inside of us. So that is something I want to do. Actually have educators have a seat at relevant tables so that we can actually think and discuss policy, discuss governance, and move the sector forward to where it really needs to be. So that's something that I really, those are three things for 2022, 2023. And then when I look into education, right, it's so important that we begin to look at resource development, human resource development, infrastructural resource development, financial resource development. That's something that is extremely important. We need to begin to say to ourselves, what banks, for example, what financial institutions can partner with education? When I look at 2019 and how a lot of schools went down simply because they didn't have the financial capacity to keep being alive, it breaks my heart, right? And that's because, again, some of us need short-term loans. We don't even want a loan for a year. We need a loan for 3 months, right? At maybe not such a huge interest rate, but 3 months, it's actually a good short-term loan. And maybe we don't do 20%, but we can even access it, right? And those are things that I need us to begin to look at in the education space. If we do not have financial capacity, we cannot have political influence in education. So we need to develop financial capacity so that we can actually have political influence. And that's something that is very important for me personally. And it draws on some of my personal goals as well for the education sector. We also need to begin to look at an infusion of technology. We actually need to have a very quick intervention with regard to technology. A lot of times we're using technology as a tool, actually as a walking stick. Well, that's not what it is. Technology is not a walking stick. Technology is life, to be honest, right now. We're online. I've never met you before, Dr. Omotala, apart from virtually. I've never met Dr. Olushola, apart from virtually. I've met Rotimi, but I haven't even met Rotimi like one-on-one. We've been in sessions together before, but we didn't sit down and have a conversation as Rotimi and Keke. No, we've only done that virtually. And so we need to
You're
begin to
still
say to
owing me my
ourselves,
ever date.
I know, I agree. And we need to
You
say to
can track the
ourselves,
meeting
right?
that way.
We need to say to ourselves, how do we actually begin to use technology as a facilitator? As a facilitator for all the things that we need to get done. And how do we, again, improve stakeholder engagement via the use of technology? Not every parent will come to your school, but I can tell you that practically every parent in Nigeria has WhatsApp. If you do a poll, at least 95% of parents, be they in public schools, be they in private schools, they have WhatsApp. How can we begin to use, and to me, to be honest, right, technology is not the big, massive Facebook, Meta, not really. The little things that we can do quicker, the little things that we can be more effective in, driving stakeholder engagement such that education can be as relevant as it should be. Because as you and I both know, Dr. Motala, when a child has 2 adults, they are likely to do much better, right? So if you have one adult in school and you have another one at home, those children will definitely do much better. And so we need to begin to look at that and begin to do that. Drive, and even in the classrooms, right? Our children should not begin to see technology as something that they should aspire for. No, they need to understand that, you know what? I can use this thing. This is not something that is a big deal. And that, again, is infrastructure development. in the education sector. So that's something that I need to look at. And then finally, capacity development in the education sector. This one, we have to create developmental circles. It is so important that we create developmental circles, right? Both in the public and in the private sector. We must say to ourselves, what are the needs in the public sector? What are the needs in the private sector? How can we begin to collaborate? How can we find partnerships that work, that are not looking to enrich their pockets? Because we know when you're in educational space, there's not a lot of enriching of pockets that happens, So impact, right? Impact. How do we collaborate for impact? Collaborate for capacity development in the education space. How do we collaborate for sustainability, right? So those are the things that I would look at. And three things on both my personal and in the education space. But I believe that if we begin to look at that, then we're not only creating future-ready systems, we're creating future-ready teachers, future-ready students, and even parents who are more likely to embrace the future for what it is. So that's it from me so far. Back to you, Dr. Watala.
Thank you so much, KK.
Yeah.
Like you basically. Oh, go ahead.
Can I say something? Just let me say
Yes.
something. Just so that, especially when people are in execution and planning mode, they must recognize that there's no tomorrow in future. Do you understand? There's no tomorrow in future. The concept of the future does not accommodate tomorrow. And so the future concept is always today and now driven. So it's such a construct that you have to be able to tie it to the day. It's never a tomorrow concept, And so fantastic stuff that KK had already said. And if you listen to the way KK said it, that's why you can also see few things that she's planning to do. But the things that she's planning to do, you find out that there's emotion and nowness to it. It's not so much as to tomorrow, because the moment we get enveloped in the word tomorrow, tomorrow does not exist, right? You find out that's when you start giving rooms for extended timing, possibilities of procrastination. I want to can continue. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you so much. I wasn't sure, you went off for a little bit. And thank you so much, KK. Like I was saying, I loved the way that you broke it down and how your own future self integrated into the future self of the education that you want to see and the education system that we want for the future. So my next question, and I'll start with Mr. Olushola, is about what role do we see private individuals playing, parents playing, students playing, and even the policymakers like the government, like in terms of the different role. What role do you think or do you believe they should play as we think of this future self in terms of education, in terms of making that education system better? Mr. Olushola.
Thank you, Dr. Motola. I really want to give a standing ovation for the submission of Kiki, and it's a way to go. At least she has picked it from a broad perspective, and for common and general prosperity of the education sector. Going by your question, idea, the mind is the incubator where ideas are nurtured. Ideas can be floating in the head. If it's not well nurtured in the mind and well crafted, it may not see the light of the day. It may not be well articulated. As individuals, we have to be futuristic. In fact, we are where we are in the world now because somebody somewhere was futuristic. Some people thought ahead. Fine, there are certain set of people who live ahead of their generation. And when those people come up with ideas and they begin to do things, people almost look like they are crazy because it has not yet entered the heart of the common man what that guy was trying to do. We must get to that point where we can deploy our mind as individual that what lies ahead. Whether we like it or not, disruption will continue to happen from time to time. In fact, it will be happening in quick succession. So the earlier an individual, the earlier a school, the earlier the parents think ahead. It is often being said that if you are not disruptive, then you'll be disrupted. So the earlier we realize as individual educator, beyond going to class and teaching, what else can I do as parents? Beyond looking for, okay, I've given birth to this child, is in early years, is in the primary, is in secondary. What can I do to even better the lot of the school? Because for me, parental role is so crucial to the schooling of every child. You don't just say, I have paid the school. And as a parent, you still have roles to play in helping that child, in helping the school. Your submission, your idea, do you know can transform a school? And like so, we never saw it in that light before. We never thought of it like this before. But from your idea, I think we are going to begin to work on this. So my submission will be for every stakeholder, let us be futuristic. Let us think ahead so that tomorrow doesn't just come upon us suddenly. And if it does, we'll be displaced. If it does, we're going to play the second fiddle, especially in the space of education. Normally, at the tertiary level, the community society needs to go to the higher institution and tell them this is the problem we are facing. Can you people go into research and give us solution to the societal problem? That happens overseas. And that's why you see them getting grants upon grants. But when the society is the one dictating the way the school will run, there will be problem. So the school supposed to collaborate and give solution to society economically, financially, politically, in area of governance. They should be the incubator where research are carried out and handed over to society. So we all need to be futuristic. I won't say that too much. Think ahead, think ahead, think ahead. It is often been said, the thing when no go wait for you, you have to wait for that thing. If you are going on a flight, you know they won't wait for you. You must get to the airport earlier. If you are going on the sea, you have to get there earlier. So if you are not going to miss the flight of disruption, of better tomorrow, of a robust educational sector, we must get there earlier than the society so that they look up to us, ask us questions, we give them solution. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olushola. Yeah, there are so many nuggets and important things that you mentioned there. And now I'll go to KK and then Mr. Rotimi.
All right. I mean, it's such a beautiful question. To be honest, Dr. Motala, how can we actually leverage or what role can private individuals, parents, students, and policymakers take in looking at the future of education? I mean, look, like Dr. Olushola said, something that cannot wait for you. You better get there first before they take off, you know. And I thought that was such an interesting comment. So to be honest, maybe I actually laughed, and I was happy that my camera was off when that happened. So it's when I think about this, right? I look into the society and I say to myself, what are the ills of the society? One ill of the society right now is corruption. Another ill is lack of accountability. We also have a lack of maintenance culture in our society. We have a lack of thinkers. We don't think in our society. And so we're waiting for everything to be done for us, right? We don't have a lot of innovative and creative adults, right? And so if I look at those five, just those five, and I look back into the education sector, I see that we're not meeting those needs. We don't have empathy as part of our curriculum, right? We're not teaching the children or our leaders how to be empathetic. So how can we see empathy in the society when we are the ones in the education sector that are breathing what happens in the society, right? If I look at accountability, again, what are the accountability structures that we have put within the curriculum framework? If children don't do homework, A parent comes home and comes to school and they scream because the child was penalized for not doing homework. If that continues, then guess what? When they go into the workplace, they would give the wrong medication, and it's okay because they are not accountable for the things that they're not being held accountable for the mistakes that they're making. And that's a problem, right? And that's something that we need to begin to look at again in the education sector. When I think about, and so many ways, how about money management? Do we just teach children or students in the university financial management, financial accounting, without them understanding what it means to actually manage finances, without understanding the fact that you need to be able to manage your finances as an individual? So that for me is the future, right? Just looking into the society and saying, what are the needs of the society? And then saying to ourselves, okay, how do we begin to create policy that drives that gap that needs closing, right? That drives the capacity to build, like almost like we're doing a SWOT analysis really and saying, this is the problem that we're having in society. What are our strengths that we can use in coping with this in the educational sector? What are the weaknesses that help us unable to cope with it? If we have opportunities, what do we use them for? How do we leverage them to make sure that we are building this particular skill? What are the threats to this, right? And once we do that easy SWOT, very quickly we can, let's say, to ourselves and move it onto a lean business canvas model and say to yourself, who do I need to make this happen? Once you know who you need, I know I'm talking really business terms here, and my apologies, but at the end of the day, we need to take a business approach to these sort of things, right? If I look at that and I move it, like I said, this SWOT onto a business model canvas, and I say, what are the people that I need to connect with? For every single one of these areas, by the time I determine financial, okay, you know what? Let me look for a financial institution that deals with money management, money managers, right? Personal finances. What I've just done is that I brought the functionality of the workplace into the education sector. And I can only build better if I do it that way. Right now, there's a disconnect between what is happening in the education sector and what the realities of the needs of outside the education sector. We need to close that gap. But by first of all identifying the needs and identifying how we can close the gap, it is then easy for us to connect parents with it. Help parents understand the fact that, look, your child doing homework is not punitive. We're building accountability. We're building self-leadership. And that's it. When a teacher understands the fact that, look, I need to be empathetic towards the needs of a student, perhaps this student, and I mean, I'm talking this into the public sector, perhaps this student who is coming to school and always looking so lost is being abused at home because she's a cleaner or she's a nanny and her oga or something is abusing the child. We're more empathetic, right? And the more empathetic we are as people, the more we understand the fact that when you are giving money to build a project in a community, you better build it. You don't keep it in your pocket because it's not your money, right? And those are accountability and empathy structure. So those are the ways, to be honest, that I see that we can pull in these things to plan for the future. Let us look at what we have today that is not working and say to ourselves, how do we make it work for the future? Who do we need to make it work? And then we can pull in those resources and truly make it work. Back to you, Dr. Watala.
Thank you so much, KK. Thank you again, Mr. Orishola, as well. You guys have really covered a lot of like very, very big but necessary conversation that needs to happen. And I'll ask Mr. Rotimi if he would like to answer the question as well. And then we'll go to our parting shot and round up for the day. Mr. Rotimi. Mr. Rotimi, are you there? Okay, if he's not there, I'll just ask
Yes,
you
thank
what
you very
everybody.
much. Can
Oh,
you
you're
hear
there.
me?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead. Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, so basically, I think that the hours come, especially for stakeholders and individuals, for us to begin to, share stories and also showcase more. Because sometimes these things that a few people are doing and are doing well, the more they get to be showcased, and when there's external testimonials, it kind of validates certain things. However, we also need the parents, individual stakeholders to begin to place higher demand, and it shouldn't just be driven by what they see. It should be driven by what they need to have. I think that's another area of contribution that will really, you know, And one of the things I believe that we are talking about placing demand from the individual perspective is not just the way people ask for their entitlement in the service delivery, but I'm not looking at just parents, complaining, oh, the school did not put on AC, they did not do this, they did not do that. I want a situation where the parents can ask, what's going to be the future? What's going to be my child's advantage if my child were to venture into the desired course he's speaking? What are the chances? It's almost like going to a doctor for diagnosis, and they're telling you a future is coming. What are the chances? What are the odds that Nigerian graduates, Nigerian students? I'm done, Omotala.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you were cut out a little bit, but thank you again for the addition. And I like what you said about having that conversation to ask, to say, what are the prospects for my child if they choose this pathway, if they choose this pathway. And we've said a lot today. And for all our tribe members that are currently watching live, thank you for joining us. If you have some things to add, please feel free to always also add your comment. For those that are watching the replay, please leave your comment as well. We'll love to read it later on. But this is such an important topic, and I want to thank all of our analysts for today and giving their time and their talent and their wisdom and their insight and intellect in the conversation. And as we round up, we hope that you start thinking about your future self. Start thinking about the role that you will play in the future of education in your city, in your community, in your nation. It's not too late to start doing that. It's not too early. And so, because it takes a village, You know that proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to actually train up a child and to educate them as well. And so, we need each and every one of you to think of your superpower and start using it for the good of the education system, for the generation that is coming, for the generation that is currently passing through the education system as well. And as we round up, I would love to hear some parting shots from all of our analysts. So I'll start with KK. What will be your parting shot for today? And then we'll go to Mr. Olishala, then Mr. Rotimi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Motola. And when you think about your future, you need to be able to imagine, right? So your future is what you see. And if you don't see seeds of your future in your today, then the reality is will it grow? So you need to be able to see the seeds of your future today, but you need to first of all be able to imagine that future and be ready, be disciplined to say, I'm going to work for this. I'm going to leverage as many partnerships as I can. But most importantly, I'm going to commit to having the future that I desire. Back to you, Omotola. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, KK. I love that. And Mr. Olishala?
Thank you. In conclusion, I want us to realize that our future self must run pari passu with the future of workplace, world of works, the future of the planet in which we live in, and the future self, future of work, future of the space in which we are in must be put into consideration. And I think when we become creative and innovative, we hasten ourselves to the future. We shorten the distance between us and the future. What that means is that COVID has taught us, if not for COVID, some of the things we are doing now, we won't do them in the next 5 years. Yes. So creativity, innovation shortens our distance to the future. We are able to arrive earlier than usual. So creativity, innovation, thinking through and batting solution, hasten your journey to your future. Yours may not be mine, mine may not be yours. The earlier you and I pick up, the earlier we arrive at our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olishala. And then on to Mr. Rotimi.
I think as we leave, we just need to listen to this session over and over again and build our perspective, get our script, and live it out.
Thank you. So there you have it, tribe members. Again, I think, yes, I was also thinking about it too, Mr. Rotimi, and I'm glad you mentioned. I'm like, I have to come back and listen to this session again. I'm so glad that we can watch it again on YouTube or Facebook. This is such an important conversation, and I'm so thankful for the vessel that has left each and every one of you. Thank you so much for really showing up and really joining this conversation. And also, as we round up, we hope that you have a wonderful November, and we are going to be back tomorrow again. Sorry for the lateness today. We had some technical issue, but we are going to keep working towards it. And that's something we need to fix in terms of our future software education. And we shout out to Tony Steve, and we are grateful for we're so grateful for if we hope to have you back back on this other side. You're one of our wonderful analysts, so good morning to you too, and we're so happy to have you join us, even if you're just watching the show as well. And so today we are going to round up with our favorite phrase. And so after the count of three, we're all going to say it together. So 1, 2, 3.
It's always
a great
a great morning
on the
on the Good Morning
Education
Education Show.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for your time.